The smell of my mother's lasagna should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like bait in a trap I hadn't seen coming. I sat across from my parents at their dining room table, the same mahogany table where I'd eaten countless family meals, done homework, and celebrated birthdays. Tonight, something felt different. Their smiles were too bright, too rehearsed. "So, Maya," my father began, cutting into his lasagna with surgical precision, "your mother and I have been talking. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content." My stomach dropped. Those 7 words had never led to anything good in the Chen household. "About what?" I asked, though every instinct screamed that I didn't want to know. Mom reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder, setting it next to my plate like a side dish I hadn't ordered. "About your future, sweetheart. About making sure you're set up for success." I stared at the folder. "What is this?" "Open it," Dad said, his voice carrying that tone he used when closing business deals. Confident, final, non-negotiable. My hands trembled as I lifted the cover. Inside were loan documents, official papers with my name already typed in, amounts and interest rates highlighted in yellow marker. $40,000. A loan application for graduate school that I'd never seen before, never filled out, never wanted. "I don't understand," I whispered, though understanding was beginning to creep in like ice water in my veins. "We know you've been hesitant about grad school," Mom said, reaching across to pat my hand. "But Dr. Morrison at the university says you have real potential. With an MBA, you could work at Dad's firm. Really make something of yourself." "I already am something," I said quietly. Dad laughed, not cruelly, but dismissively. "Maya, you're 25 and working at a coffee shop. That's not a career, it's a placeholder. I'm a writer. I freelance. I—" "You make what, maybe 15,000 a year?" Mom interrupted. "Honey, that's not sustainable. This loan will pay for a good program, 2 years, and then you'll have a real job with real benefits." I flipped through the pages, seeing my forged signature on preliminary forms, seeing how they'd used my social security number, my personal information. They'd already started the process, behind my back, without my consent. "You signed my name," I said, the words barely audible. "Just on the initial interest forms," Dad said quickly. "Nothing binding." "But Maya, this is a good opportunity. The deadline is next week, and—" "You forged my signature." The volume of my voice surprised even me. "We were helping you," Mom said, her voice taking on that wounded tone she used when she wanted to flip the script and make herself the victim. "You're so stubborn sometimes. We knew you'd fight us on this even though it's what's best for you." I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the hardwood floor. "What's best for me? Or what's best for your image of what my life should look like?" "Maya," Dad started. "No." I grabbed the folder, holding it against my chest like armor. "You went behind my back. You used my personal information without permission. You brought me here under false pretenses to ambush me with documents for a life I never said I wanted." "We're your parents," Mom said, tears beginning to form in her eyes, tears I'd once fallen for, but now recognized as manipulation. "We only want what's best for you." "Do you know what I was doing today before I came here?" I asked. They stared at me, probably expecting me to confess to some trivial activity that would prove their point about my aimless life. "I bought a plane ticket." I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, showing them the boarding pass I'd screenshot. "To New York. Because I got a job offer. A real job offer. At a publishing house. Starting salary is $45,000 with benefits, and it's in the field I actually care about." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the grandfather clock in the hallway ticking. You. What? Mom whispered. I got the job 3 days ago. They want me to start in 2 weeks. I was going to tell you tonight, actually. I thought you'd be proud. Dad recovered first, his business instincts kicking in. Maya, that's wonderful. But this loan could still be useful. You could get your MBA part-time, or… No. I walked to their fireplace, the one with the gas logs that had never seen a real fire. You know what this is? I held up the folder. This is you deciding my life without asking me. This is you treating me like a child who can't make her own decisions. This is you thinking you know better than I do about what will make me happy. We do know better, Mom said, standing up, her maternal instincts finally outweighing her guilt. You're young. You're naive. You don't understand how the world works. I understand how fraud works, though. I pulled out my phone. Should I call the police? Or the bank? I'm pretty sure forging someone's signature on financial documents is illegal. Maya! Dad's voice boomed. We are your parents. We sacrificed everything for you. We paid for your college. We supported you through your artistic phase. My artistic phase? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You mean my career? The thing I love? The thing I'm actually good at? Good at? Mom scoffed. If you were good at it, you'd be making money. And there it was. The truth behind all their support, all their smiles, all their, we just want what's best for you. Money, status, their ability to brag to their friends about their daughter's impressive job. I walked back to the table and very carefully tore the loan documents in half. Then in half again. Then again, until they were confetti scattered across Mom's pristine lasagna. Maya, stop! Mom lunged forward as if she could somehow reassemble the papers. You want to know something funny? I said, pulling out my phone again. I actually considered telling them I'd take the position remotely. Stay here, work from home, be close to family. I showed them another screenshot, an email I'd drafted but never sent, asking my new boss about remote work possibilities. But now I'm thinking New York sounds perfect. Really put some distance between us. You're overreacting, Dad said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Let me ask you something. When you were 25, would you have wanted your parents forging your signature on financial documents? Making major life decisions behind your back? That was different, Mom said quickly. We had to work for everything. Our parents didn't have the resources to help us like we're trying to help you. Help me? You mean control me? I pulled out the chair I'd knocked over and sat back down, but this time I felt different. Stronger, like I was seeing my parents clearly for the first time. I have a question, I said, my voice calm now, deadly calm. How long have you been planning this? They exchanged a look. The same look they'd shared when I was 16, and they were deciding whether to tell me they'd read my diary. Maya, Mom started. How long? A few weeks, Dad admitted. Since I told you about the interview? Another look between them. Since I told you about the interview, I repeated, not asking this time. You knew I was pursuing something I actually wanted, and you decided to sabotage it. We didn't sabotage anything, Mom protested. We just wanted to make sure you had options. Options that you chose. With my name, with my credit, without my knowledge. I stood up again. Do you know what I'm realizing right now? This isn't about what's best for me. This has never been about what's best for me. Of course it has, Dad said, but he was looking everywhere except at me. No, it hasn't. It's about what looks good to your friends, what makes you feel like successful parents, what fits the narrative you've created about who I should be. I picked up my purse. Well, Here's a narrative for you. Your daughter is moving to New York. She's going to work in publishing. She's going to write. And she's going to do it all without your help, your approval, or your loan documents. Maya, please, Mom said, and for the first time her tears seemed real. Don't leave like this. We can talk about this. We can work it out. Can we? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've already decided how this conversation was going to go. You had papers drawn up. You forged my signature. You ambushed me over dinner. How exactly did you think this was going to work? I was just going to sign whatever you put in front of me? We thought. Dad trailed off. You thought I was weak. You thought I was directionless. You thought I didn't have the spine to make my own decisions. I walked toward the door. You were wrong. Where are you going? Mom called after me. To pack. My flight's tomorrow. Tomorrow? Dad stood up. But we thought you were just threatening. I turned around one last time. This is what you never understood about me. When I make a decision, I follow through. The job offer came with a signing bonus and relocation assistance. I already gave notice at the coffee shop. I already found an apartment in Queens. The only thing I hadn't done was tell you, because I thought you deserved to know first. I thought you'd be proud. We are proud, Mom whispered. No, you're not. You're disappointed that I'm not who you wanted me to be. But that's your problem now, not mine. I left them standing in their dining room, surrounded by torn papers and cold lasagna. I drove home to my tiny studio apartment and continued packing the boxes I'd started 3 days earlier. Every book, every notebook, every piece of the life I'd built while they were planning a different one behind my back. My phone rang 14 times that night. Mom, Dad, Mom again, Dad again. I didn't answer. What was there to say? They'd shown me exactly what they thought of my judgment, my capability, my right to choose my own path. The 15th call came from my younger brother Jake, calling from college. What did you do to Mom and Dad? He asked without preamble. Mom's crying, Dad's pacing, and they keep saying something about loan papers. I told him everything, the whole story, from the dinner ambush to the forged signatures to the job offer they'd tried to derail. Holy shit, Maya, he said when I finished. They actually forged your signature? On preliminary forms, yeah. That's really messed up. You think? I mean, I get that they want what's best for you, but… Jake, if someone forged your signature on financial documents without your knowledge, would you consider that wanting what's best for you? Long pause. No, I wouldn't. Then why is it different because they're our parents? Another pause. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't, I agreed. I finished packing at 2 in the morning. Everything I owned fit into 5 boxes and 2 suitcases, a remarkably small footprint for 25 years of life. But it felt right. Clean. Like I was shedding skin that had never quite fit. The flight to New York was uneventful. I dozed somewhere over Pennsylvania and woke up as we began our descent into LaGuardia. The city spread out below me like a circuit board, all lights and connections and possibility. My phone had 7 new voicemails, but I deleted them without listening. The apartment in Queens was smaller than my studio back home, but it had something my old place never had. It was mine, chosen by me, for me, without anyone else's approval or input. I assembled my few pieces of furniture, unpacked my books, and hung the framed acceptance letter from my college literary magazine, the first time I'd ever seen my own words in print. Monday morning, I walked into the offices of Morrison & Associates Publishing, wearing my best interview suit and carrying a leather portfolio I'd bought specifically for this moment. My new boss, Sarah Morrison, greeted me with a smile that seemed genuinely pleased to see me. Maya, welcome to New York. How was the move? Liberating, I said, and realized I meant it. The work was challenging in the way I'd been craving, editing manuscripts, corresponding with agents, reading submissions that made me think and feel and remember why I'd fallen in love with words in the first place. My tiny cubicle had a window that looked out onto the street, and I could watch the city move and change throughout the day. Writers and dreamers and people chasing their own versions of what mattered to them. I didn't call my parents for 2 weeks. When I finally did, Mom answered on the first ring. Maya? Oh, honey, we've been so worried. Are you okay? Are you safe? I'm fine, Mom. I'm settled. I started work. How is it? The job? It's good. It's really good. And you're happy? I looked around my small apartment, at the manuscript I'd been reading over lunch, at the acceptance letter still hanging on my wall. Yeah, Mom. I'm happy. We miss you. I know. Your father wants to talk to you. Is he going to apologize? Long pause. Maya, we only wanted... I know what you wanted. The question is whether Dad understands why what you did was wrong. Another pause. Let me get him. Dad's voice came on the line, tentative in a way I'd never heard before. Maya? Hi, Dad. How are you doing? Really? I'm doing well. Really well. That's good. That's really good. He cleared his throat. Maya, about the dinner, about the papers. Yeah? I want you to know that we thought we were helping. But I can see now that maybe we went about it wrong. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was closer than I'd expected. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. If I had signed those papers, if I had taken out that loan, if I had gotten an MBA and come to work at your firm, would I have been happy? He was quiet for a long time. I don't know, he finally said. I thought you would be. But honestly, I don't know. I do know. I would have been miserable, and eventually I would have resented you for it. Maybe you're right. I am right. This job, this city, this life I'm building, it fits me, Dad. It actually fits who I am. I'm starting to see that. Good. Because I'm not coming back. I'm not going to business school. I'm not going to work at your firm. I'm going to write and edit and maybe someday publish my own book. And I need you and Mom to be okay with that. We're trying to be okay with that. That's all I can ask for. 6 months later, I got a package in the mail with no return address. Inside was a copy of a literary magazine, not one I'd ever heard of, with a sticky note attached. Saw your name in the contributor's notes. Thought you might like a copy. Dad. I flipped through the pages until I found it. A short story I'd published about a young woman leaving home to pursue her dreams. It was barely 3 pages long, and I'd been paid $50 for it, but seeing it there in print made me feel like I'd won the lottery. There was something else in the package. A letter, handwritten on Dad's business letterhead. Maya, your mother and I have been talking. I know. Famous last words. We've been reading your articles online and we saw the announcement about your promotion. We wanted you to know that we're proud of you. Really proud. Not because of the salary or the job title, but because you were brave enough to know what you wanted and go after it. We're sorry it took us so long to understand that. Love, Dad, and Mom, who was looking over my shoulder while I wrote this, and wants me to add that she loves you and misses you, and is planning to visit soon whether you like it or not. I laughed out loud in my tiny kitchen, startling my upstairs neighbor's cat. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I called home. Mom? It's Maya. I got Dad's letter. Oh good, he was so nervous about sending it. He wrote 6 drafts. Tell him thank you. And Mom, you're welcome to visit anytime. I have a futon with your name on it. The revenge I'd planned, the cold distance, the withheld contact, the proof that I could succeed without them, had transformed into something else entirely. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. They had been wrong, deeply wrong, but they had also been scared. Scared that their daughter was making a mistake they couldn't protect her from. As it turned out, I was making plenty of mistakes. The difference was, they were my mistakes to make. I hung up the phone and looked around my small apartment, at the life I'd built with my own choices, my own risks, my own dreams. It wasn't perfect. My bank account was smaller than it would have been with that MBA. My apartment was smaller than the one I could have afforded with their help. But every single thing in my life was there because I had chosen it. And that, I realized, made all the difference. The ambush at that dinner table had been meant to corner me, to force me into a life someone else had designed. Instead, it had shown me exactly how strong I was when I stood up for myself. It had given me the clarity to see what I really wanted and the courage to reach for it. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, but even better than that is living authentically. Living as yourself, on your own terms, with your own signature on all the papers that matter. And if that happens to prove your doubters wrong in the process, well, that's just a very pleasant side effect.